My word is junta, spelt J-U-N-T-A. Well, we come across the word junta mostly, in fact I say almost entirely, as a negative term to describe a government, a military government, which has seized power by force and which governs collectively as a group of generals rather than as a single leader or dictator. For example, most typically in Latin America, but not exclusively, it's normally formed when the three services, the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, decide between them that enough is enough for whatever reason, seize power collectively, and haven't yet decided amongst themselves who will be the principal leader. And therefore the junta, the group of them, rules collectively. What normally happens, of course, inevitably, is that one of them emerges on top. The most characteristic example of that in recent years was the military coup in Chile in 1973, which overthrew the elected government of Salvador Allende. And it was a military government because it was all three armed services who seized power and ruled as a junta. In fact, in very short space of time, one person, the leader of the army, General Augusto Pinochet, emerged as the leader, and it soon became Pinochet's dictatorship rather than a junta. The term itself, junta, comes from the Spanish junta, which literally means assembly. It means a gathering. It can mean a board, as in a board of directors, or planning board, or something like that. It can also mean a committee, a parliamentary committee. It means a gathering of people for a formal purpose. That was the way in which the term was used in Spanish historically, and is still used in Spanish today in most cases. But it first acquired a political meaning in the Spanish resistance to Napoleon in 1807-1808, when Napoleon overthrew the King of Spain, removed the King of Spain and put his own brother, Joseph, on the throne of Spain. And what happened immediately was the response came from local political leaders who immediately declared what they called juntas, which meant in place of the king, until the king was returned, they would govern Spain. And so there were juntas declared in various parts of Spain, which were quite clearly political. So the term had a political meaning. It meant board, it meant government, it meant committee, but in practice it came to mean a temporary, a makeshift, a de facto rather than legal government in place of something else. That then went on to Latin America very quickly, because in Latin America, which was then the Spanish colonies, they had exactly the same problem, and in almost all cases the colony, the elders, the leading politicians of the colony, declared a junta following the Spanish example. So there was a junta in Caracas, a junta in Buenos Aires, in Lima, and so on. In many cases, that junta then became the embryo for the independent government. It was in the 20th century that the term became more negative, associated with a military takeover, and that tended to be from the 1930s onwards.
Do the members of a junta consider it a negative term? Like, would you say to their face, oh, you guys have formed a junta?
It's an interesting concept that quite who sees the term in Spanish or in English as negative. In English it's uniformly negative, and so almost certainly if you were interviewing a general, for example in Burma, which I saw most recently described as a military junta, they would almost certainly deny they're a member of a junta. It's a government. It's a government of national reconciliation or national rescue or something like that. In Latin America, because the term junta still does have positive connotations, there's much less likelihood of a general responding negatively and saying, I'm not a member of a junta. So the term actually still has its more neutral, or should we say even positive, meaning. Mostly, however, they will call it a gobierno, a government, because they realize that the term in English, and therefore in Europe and in the United States, has negative connotations.